Hello and welcome to the first video I'm recording in 2026. And what better way to start the year than with an actual planning session for the entire year. However, in this video I'm not exactly planning my 2026 yet. Instead, I'll tell you how I prepare for my planning session for the year, so to say. And how I'm making sure that I'm not running around like a headless chicken or something. Which happens way too easily, if I'm being honest. Because while it's important to not get stuck in the planning phase, it's, for me specifically, almost more important to properly prepare for everything. Last year, I've been planning my month to month on a very regular basis. I'm pretty sure I did it every month. And now this time around, I'm going to translate what I've learned into the planning for the entire year. So join me in doing that, and hopefully you'll find a few of my techniques helpful for your own process. So the first thing I do every month, and to a bigger degree now for the next year, is to clean my flat. Honestly speaking, I'm a pretty chaotic person, so I always have books and random knickknacks laying around everywhere. I also like to put things like bills or other things I want to take care of semi-soon into various obvious spots so that I don't forget about them. Or I put things like library books or things I want to return to my friends onto my living room table. And that's actually a very smart idea, but if I'm not careful, that can totally take over my life. So every month I get rid of the general mess, and I usually set a 10 to 20 minutes timer for, every time I do that. But since it's the new year and I'm in dire need for a proper reset and deep clean, I'm doing exactly that by setting my alarm to an hour. Once I'm done with that, the next step is something quote-unquote new I'm trying to bring into my routine, because I think it might really help me with my mental health. I've been struggling more with depression again, and my brain literally deletes any achievements or good times I had in the last months. I literally had a conversation with a friend where I joked that filling out my taxes will be super easy for me because I didn't have a single commission last year. Just for said friend to remind me that she was one of the people who commissioned me for 2 character designs and character sheets, and when I then checked my tax notes, I realized that first, it wasn't the case at all that I didn't get any commissions, and second, last year was actually my financially strongest year for my freelance career. That's how bad my brain is at remembering the achievements of the past. So anyways, what I'm trying to do to combat that is that I write a list of as many things I can think of that I am proud of that happened to me in 2025, or things I'd be proud of if other people told me about them. Like, part of depression, and for me specifically it's pretty bad, is that if I achieve something, it's like, oh yeah, whatever, that's not an achievement, that's just something I did. But if someone else would tell me about the same thing, I'd be like, oh my god, that's so cool, congrats on that. So this little switcheroo is a way to trick my brain into, I guess, still being proud of myself. I don't know. The short thing is that it's better than not doing that. It's just a little trick I found for myself. For this, I also set a timer for 20 minutes, but I might also set another one if I get into the flow and I don't think remembering my wins for the last year is something I want to stop just because a random alarm went off. But setting a timer to begin with kind of helps me concentrate and not get distracted, if that makes sense. Afterwards, my brain is so much clearer and in a better mindset, so it's way easier for me to do the next step, which is meditating and basically ruminating on the last year and the next year and my goals and responsibilities. A big change from proper meditation, I guess, from what I know, is that I don't let the thoughts that come to my mind go, but I write them down. Not every thought, obviously, but the ones I do want to remember. This can be anything from plans I have, or goals, or sometimes even quotes that I want to remember because they motivate me, or just any general revelations that come to mind just because I don't know. I think the problem for me in my daily life is that I don't find the time or take the time to just breathe. So, or at least I don't do that naturally. So it helps me to sit down and actively plan those ruminating sessions, and then my subconsciousness kind of just like spits out the things that have been in my subconsciousness, but that might be very relevant to my conscious brain as well. So that helps me to declutter my brain and just like move forward with everything basically. Now I take that list of things that are on my mind right now and compare that to my ongoing quarterly goals master list. The master list is the one I reference for my monthly planning, and anything I want to get done as soon as possible or over the course of the year goes onto this list. Now that I think about it, my master list is basically my ongoing yearly resolutions. But instead of setting them once, it's a moving list that's changing depending on various factors. The big projects on there don't change though, but I'll talk more about my monthly planning and how exactly I use my master list at another point in time. I also have my brain dump list for smaller random things that I want to write down but aren't relevant enough to be written into my master list. If I'm honest, I'm not looking at that one as much as I probably should, but that's another topic. All you need to know right now is that it's basically where everything goes that doesn't have a proper place elsewhere, I guess. But as I said, now I'm comparing the freshly written meditation list with my master list. Many things are hopefully on both lists, and that means I can plan those soonish, aka in the next 3 months. Because even if it's something that's technically not a pressing issue, something about my brain bit its teeth into that, and if I don't take care of that task, there will be more like that coming and they end up clogging up my brain, and I get anxiety because I have too much on my brain, and yada yada yada. And if it's something that's on my mind and on my master list, it's also important anyway, so the combination makes it important enough to take care of as soon as possible, regardless of what it actually is. So if any of those tasks come up, I put them into one of the lists for the next 3 months, and with everything else on either of those two lists, I see if it's actually important, should move to the brain dump, stay in the quarterly goals list for future planning, or maybe can be deleted altogether. That's usually if it's something that's not applicable anymore, or most likely something I already took care of but forgot to cross off the master list, because that happens more often than I'd admit. But oh well. Now, this is the point of the process where I put on my serious business planning hat, which means the preparations for my yearly planning are done. But before I end this video, here are some little disclaimers for the things I've done so far. This time around, I'm doing everything in my flat and on my computer, but that's because I'm filming, and also my iPad is getting repaired right now, so I only have my phone to work with in the library, and that's not that comfortable for me. At least not for stuff like this. Usually I do at least parts of this at my local library or any other space that's not my flat. I think my brain needs new impulses or it gets bored. So if I'm always in my flat and in the same space at the same table, my brain looks for other interesting things. And then I get distracted. If I'm already in a new place, that just doesn't happen as easily. Or usually not at all, if I'm being honest. And I have a rotation of places I like to go to. Like, right now I spend almost every free day of mine at the library, but I'm sure in a few weeks I'll get too used to that place and I'll manage to find ways to distract myself again. When that happens, I'll probably find a cafe to sit in, or just, I don't know, one time I just randomly sat in the shopping center, so just randomly on a bench there, which also works wonders for specific tasks, if I'm being honest. And that doesn't mean that after another few weeks or months, I'm not returning to the library again. I have spent so much time in this library in my life. It's basically my second home. But again, if my brain gets too used to a place, I find ways to distract myself. An easy way to avoid this is regularly switching the places I work at. And also another nice fact about the library especially is that it's basically like co-working with other people. So the entire vibe just also helps me not get distracted. And like things like my pencils over there that I'm looking at right now, they're not that chaotic, but I could also clean that, you know, instead of filming this. If I wanted to, I could just clean that. So yeah, I hope you get my point. Another small tip that seems counterintuitive, I feel like, is that I always got my phone handy. I already mentioned my brain dump list, but something that's even more casual, I guess, is the WhatsApp group I have with just myself. Because I just put any and every thought I have that's important enough to be written down, but I just don't have the time or whatever. Just basically any thought I have goes into a WhatsApp group with myself. And if I'm working and I have random thoughts, like I could clean up my pencils over there, I can just like write it into my phone and I know it's written down somewhere that I regularly check, and then I just return to the task instead of having my pencils stuck in my brain. I've been talking so much about my pencils, I think after I finished filming this, I will clean my pencils. But yeah, with the tasks I have written down in my own personal group chat. By the way, there's no one else in there, it's just me, myself, and I. It's a group chat my grandmother accidentally created years ago, and I was like, ooh, free real estate, so yeah. But anyways, I check this group chat basically at least every 2 days, mostly every day, for the important things I need to get done, and that works so well for me. So that's a lifesaver. And then every time I declutter them, like I put the things on there either in their respective list or get them done right away, because sometimes it's for real just stuff like put some change into your wallet. Like that's not gonna go on any lists. That's just something I get done as soon as I get home, basically. But I also have to admit that when I'm talking about it, it sounds like I already have these systems in place, and I kind of have, but also I really need to be more strict with actually transferring the lists or like keeping these lists. Like right now there are so many tasks in that group chat, for example, that I just didn't declutter because I didn't know what to do with them. The things I just told you about are my plan moving forward, and with 90% of the tasks I'm already doing this, so I'm sure it will work, but it is still something I do need to work on. Because as of now, that list and almost every other list I have are very chaotic. Which is why for 2026 specifically, I'll go through all my other various lists and notes and everything and organize them. My plan for this year is to organize and reduce my to-do lists to my WhatsApp notes for thoughts on the go, the brain dump for everything that's important enough to be written down, the quarterly goal setting master list for the projects I want to work on this year, which will then be transformed into my monthly master list and into my weekly planning list. And now that I counted all these lists, it still seems like quite a lot of to-do lists, especially because kind of technically my just usual calendar also counts into that, but I don't count that because it's my daily planning, but regardless. It sounds like way too many lists, but honestly, if I try to put everything into 1 or 2 lists, it's just a 195.357 kilometer long to-do list, and I feel overwhelmed, and then I get anxiety and I get task paralysis and I don't get anything done ever. So for me, and also with the experiences I've had over the last few months, I know that there's a very high possibility that this system is going to work for me specifically. Because I know for every list which kind of task goes onto which list. And if I have time to work on some things or want to plan some tasks, I know which list I go to for, I don't know, various things. And I also know for everything on my mind, it is written down somewhere that is easy enough to find that I don't forget it, even though it is written somewhere, but it's also written somewhere so it doesn't clog up my brain. I hope all of this makes sense. I feel the longer I talk about this, the more confusing it gets. Which is also why, like I said, I will go ahead and organize everything, but I will also be doing that part off screen because it's just 100% chaos and I wouldn't even know how to film it. But my plan is for my next video to be about my actual planning for 2026 together with you. So in that one, I will be telling you more about how I work with my quarterly master list and how and which tasks I transfer into each month and everything. Because not gonna lie, I think the systems I've found over the last few months for myself work very well. If I ignore the fact that my to-do lists are chaotic right now. But like, that's not what I'm talking about. My systems of setting goals works very well. And I hope I can give you guys some inspiration on how to tackle your own systems. But like I said, first I need to bring some kind of order into all my notes. So I'll end the video here and I hope I'll see you in the next one, and bye bye.